Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. In particular, welcome to PCP Movie Night, and we are nearing the end of March Madness, but we got a great one to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking about the 1972 Lucio Fulci film, Don't Torture a Duckling. I love Italian horror. I love giallo, and I'm really excited to unpack this with a great panel of guests. Unfortunately, most of them have not shown up. But that's okay because I got the man himself. It's Verno. What is up, my man?
What up? What's going on, my brother? Stoked to be here.
I'm stoked that you're here because otherwise it would just be me.
And, hey, you can pull it off.
Yeah, I'm sure I could pull off an hour show talking about. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to start eating jalapenos again. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if I want to do that, man. By the way, everybody, I'm totally fine. Nothing broke inside or anything like that. But Brooks is going to be a little bit late. Jelani had something come up, and Perry said he'd be here. And I just think he's probably in a stone stupor right now, not understanding the difference between Central and Eastern or something. Maybe he was here like an hour ago. Like, where's everybody? I guess there's no show. And then he dipped out. So somebody check on Perry, make sure he's all right. But anyway, I got Verno here. This is your first time watching this film, right?
Yeah, well, when I decided to do the show with you a couple months ago, I ordered it then, and I've watched it a few times since then. But yeah, I'd never heard of it or seen it until you pointed it out, for sure.
All right. Well, it's one of his first films. It's not his first film, but he has been working in he's been working in like television and other things for a while.
He did a lot of comedy films, I saw. Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, he did a lot of comedy before he got into giallo.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sense of his filmography right now. But like I always thought Lizard in a Woman's Skin was his first, but that's probably his first like giallo film that he did, right? So as far as giallo goes, he did this one, he did Lizard in a Woman's Skin. I love both those movies. He did New York Ripper, which I love that sleazy ass movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's The Psychic, and there's like something else that I can't really remember.
He did one, I think, after New York Ripper called Murder Rock that I have.
Murder Rock. Yeah, I've never seen that, but it sounds like it's the antithesis to Cop Rock, which was like, the musical cop drama that came on in the early 90s or some shit. You just wait. If you don't think we're going to cover Cop Rock eventually here on, I got to be careful how I say that because I want to say Cock Rock. Cock Rock. Cock Rock would be like Ted Nugent like music and shit like that, right? Anyway, we're going to be talking about this one. Don't Torture a Duckling, directed by Lucio Fulci, 1972. It's a giallo film. But it's not necessarily, it's got the trappings of giallo, but it doesn't have like the killer and the trench coat with the hat, with the switchblade. It doesn't have that kind of stuff, but it is a murder mystery, and it is set in Italy, which some of these movies are not set in Italy necessarily. And, the police are completely ineffective, right? That's something that happens in these films. But Fulci is known mostly for his supernatural gory movies, I would say, right? Like he's done giallo. Every Italian director took their stab at it, if you will, right? Back in the day, because they were so popular in Italian cinema. As much as I love it, Italian cinema's main tenet is, oh, that's successful? Let's do it like 800 fucking times. Let's just do it to death. You know what I'm saying? But Don't Torture a Duckling is considered one of his best films. And it's not one of my favorite films. I wouldn't put this anywhere near like The Beyond or Zombie or City of the Living Dead, but it definitely is technically one of his best films.
Mm-hmm.
The way that it's shot, the craft of it, the use of location, the camera effects, the tricks. There's a lot of Fulci-isms in here, and it's before apparently he decided he really liked eye trauma, right? But Don't Torture a Duckling is a movie I like. I like it. It is, to me, a little bit slow, but I don't mind that. And I like how it's, like a lot of Fulci films try to make you uncomfortable, right? This one makes you uncomfortable in a different way because it involves the death of children. Mm-hmm. It involves pedophilia. It involves a lot of stuff that's very unnerving. And at the time, it was rather dramatic for this film to come out. It was a big deal for an Italian film to really point fingers at the Catholic Church. in a somewhat subtle way. And I'm sure we're going to get into all of that because we got a great panel here tonight. Me and Verno is probably the best panel we've ever had on PCP Movie Night, to be honest with you. I hope Dylan's not dealing. I mean, Dylan. I hope Brooks is not dealing with a horse catastrophe right now. So let's go ahead. And first of all, thanks to everybody out here in the chat. GT Key Comic. We got Rogue Collecting. We got Duffy. And you know we don't have March Madness without Two Gun Pedro. So, a nice pick for Triangle. We got Luke Meister in the house. And we got Red Hood Reviews. Hey, man, first time in the chat. Well, thank you for joining us. Usually PCP Movie Night goes for about an hour and a half, but see what happens tonight.
We might go 3 hours tonight, man. I feel it.
We'll see. So, Verno, why don't you kick us off? Why don't you tell me what you thought about the film overall? And this is like your first time watching for this show, right? So
yes. So this is I bought this Arrow edition of it. Did you just have the reversible cover deal?
It does, but like I can't read Italian, man.
Oh, I can't read it either, but I can kind of say it. Non si sa viso un paparino.
I like that. Okay.
I guess the paparino on there, they added the un because if without the un, the title would have been "Don't Torture Donald Duck," which is actually what they wanted it to be. Disney's like, you can use the Donald Duck, but make it un.
What is Lucio Fulci's thing with Donald Duck? Because in New York Ripper, the killer makes the Donald Duck quack, right?
I thought that too, dude. Right, like 10 years later. So there's some kind of story there. But okay, my experience with this film at this point, I don't want to sound too much like a broken record, but I don't think I've ever thrown in a giallo movie and put it in and finished it and be like, oh, I fucking loved it. I'm always impressed by the visuals, of course, but I never follow the film. This movie, I didn't even know it was a giallo until halfway through. I'm like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be like following some kind of mystery trying to solve here. But it's because I went into it thinking Lucio Fulci. It's going to be gory. It's going to be either a zombie thing or a supernatural. So I wasn't expecting giallo. And after watching it once and then watching the commentary, watching it again, being able to follow it a lot more, my first thought is it's not that confusing compared to a lot of giallos. It actually is pretty straightforward. I was surprised that I had a hard time the first go at it. But at this point, dude, I think it's a really, really like solid movie. Like you pointed out, it's his best production. They're using cranes and steady cams and a lot of like big expansive shots, and that the actors I think are all doing top-notch work. Their performances are solid. The dubbing is pretty shit, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. It's not what I expected.
You watched the English dub,
dude. Okay, does yours, when you put it in, does it automatically go to the Italian version?
Yeah.
Every time I've watched this movie 3 times, and every time I get 10 minutes into it, I'm like, oh shit, and I keep on taking it out or resetting it and going back to English. So yeah, I watched the dub version every time for the most part.
It's one of the worst. And we're talking about Italian movies, right? So the dubs are always not the greatest. This is one of the worst dubs I've ever seen. All the kids sound like 22-year-old women.
Right.
You know what
right. Yeah.
Yes. You want to have sex with me? Yes. Like, it's so weird, man.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, but you get used to that. You come to kind of enjoy these goofy ass dubs, man. But I think if they didn't have kids in the movie, if it wasn't kids, it would feel more like you think they held back and didn't show the murder scenes because that wasn't what Fulci was into, or because it was kids? You know what I mean? Because that changes the whole experience of the movie and makes it feel it's like a giallo film without the kills in it, which is weird.
Yeah, and especially since we know Fulci as being a very brutal kind of director, right? Because of some of his later work. But I don't know. I'd have to, because I haven't seen Lizard in a Woman's Skin in like over 20 years. And that was the last time I saw this movie, is when I was getting into Italian horror. I was watching all of them. And I remember this one standing out, but like not as much as like some of his later films, right? Like for me, because like I just Zombie and The Beyond, like it's hard to top that for me. But I'd have to rewatch Lizard in a Woman's Skin, but I don't know if it's necessarily a thing of whether or not he didn't want to show it or whether or not he just wasn't into showing that much gore, because this movie's got some gore, right? But it's all like directed towards the adults. And I think that maybe there is a little bit of sensitivity to the subject, because it's not just that they kill a kid. They kill a lot of kids in this movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I guess you're right. The one big scene that feels like a Lucio Fulci set piece kill scene is the one where they beat the hell out of that woman, who I keep thinking of as a witch, whatever she was. She was into some kind of voodoo stuff.
Yeah.
That feels like Lucio Fulci, and that is the scene you're going to leave this movie remembering. Besides maybe the little bit of nudity that you get, you're going to remember that too.
Yeah, you're definitely going to remember that. And also when the killer, spoilers, the killer's the priest, when he's falling to his death and he hits every goddamn rock on the way down, and his head just fucking explodes every time, man. It's like that's Fulci right there. That's one of my favorite things. Like the idea that it's like obviously a dummy, and Fulci's like, who cares?
Right.
Who gives a shit if we know that that's fake? Like, we're doing it for the effect.
Well, just like the kid earlier in the movie when they show that kid that's drowned, or he's in that pool of water, and you can just see this dummy with the face. It looks great, and then they go back to it. They stay on it for like 5 seconds. Like, go away. We could see all that.
Yeah, we know that feeling though, because that's what it's like when you've smoked too many dabs and you phantom zoned out, and you're just like, you're like in a pane of glass, like the fucking Superman 2 and shit.
That's terrifying. Don't bring me back.
It is terrifying. No, I do like the film. I think it's great. Now, Jelani shared some of his thoughts with me last night, so I can share some of his thoughts. Cool. Since he's unable to make it tonight. But he thought it was boring. He thought it was dull. He thought it was stupid. He did not like the Patricia or whatever her name is, right? He didn't like the fact that she was like coming on to these kids. But I'm like, was she really doing that, or was she, like teasing?
Right.
Is she's bored. She's like a rich woman.
Right.
She's had some kind of drug scandal going on, right? And she's in this small, poor Italian village now, right? You can get that idea. Like, there's this really interesting sense of a village that's being passed by time.
Right. Well, that's what they even open up with the interstate coming into it. It's like a big part of the movie is exactly what you're saying. It's a beautiful way to kind of visualize that though, with the interstate going right through the town.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, I think that she's just bored as fuck, bruh. Like, she's sitting there just fucking drinking orangeade, completely nude. I guess, what is she, tanning in her fucking apartment? Right. I don't know what's going on there.
If I was that hot, I'd probably just lay around naked too.
Yeah, no shit. I would just own it, baby. Just fucking, if you got it, flaunt it. You know what I'm saying? I expected that response from Jelani. Now, Jelani said this, though. Jelani's like, now, if I was the 12-year-old kid, I wouldn't mind. But for some reason, it bothers him that happened. And I understand. But that's a real thing. That's a real thing that happens, right? So let's get into the cast. There's some great performances in this one. Why don't you kick us off, Verno? What's a performance you want to highlight?
You know what I'm going to go with, man? You've got to watch The Editor. I've attempted to buy a copy of that and send it to you. Okay.
If you did, I'd cover it.
Yeah. Well, you don't even need to cover it. You just need to see this movie. You and Jelani and Brooks would all enjoy it because all of you guys have watched a lot of Italian giallo at this point. But anyway, the reason I bring it up, the reporter in this movie, who kind of ends up being the lead character, I guess, right? He's kind of the lead hero coming to solve the crime. The actor, there's pretty much a version of him in The Editor. Like, there's this guy that's a reporter, and he's playing this guy, who I guess was a really famous actor in Italy at the time. I don't know if you know his name. I got him right here. The character's Don Alberto, but he's Mark Perel. And I guess he was a pretty big actor at the time. But he's just kind of hilarious.
You're talking about the priest?
The reporter. He's the guy that's got the mustache, and he's going around trying to solve the crime.
Don Alberto, I believe, is the priest.
I have it wrong? Oh, I'm sorry. I probably have it wrong. They look very much alike.
It's Thomas Millian.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Plays Andrea Martelli, Cuban-born actor and singer with American and Italian citizenship.
Well, in every Italian giallo movie, there's a guy that has nothing to do with the police. He has nothing to do with anything, and he's going around solving the crime. He plays that role in this one, but at least he's a reporter. Like, he kind of makes sense. So it's cool to have him.
He's not just a pianist, like you're saying. Like, he's not just a piano player. Like, I'm going to solve this murder.
He's climbing in through windows and joining investigations and shit. How about the scene where he does that? He climbs into the window. He comes in, he's talking to the cops. He's like, well, what I've noticed is the killer, he must be crazy. And they're all like, "Oh man, you have really figured that out. Well, we know you've brought a lot to the investigation, but still, you're not part of this. You must go." Like that's some big revelation that the killer is crazy.
Yeah, I love that. He's right. Like, what a great psychological profile to put together of this killer, right?
Crazy. But no, I'll go with him. I will say, dude, I thought all the characters were solid and fun in this though. Like it was one that at first I was like, oh god, yeah, we're good doing characters. Let me think, who would it be? It's like, oh, there's 5 or 6 really well fleshed out characters that are all pretty interesting. Not that we have 5 people on the panel to go through them, but maybe maybe
Yeah,
we get some
right.
of them.
Maybe we should have we should have had 5 people here tonight, but we'll see what happens. I'm gonna go with Barbara Boucher, because first of all, she is striking. And Jelani told me, he's like, you realize that she's Moneypenny, right? From James Bond. And then I'm like, what? You're out of your mind. And so I started looking into that. She's the Moneypenny in Casino Royale, which is like kind of the spy spoof that was done by a bunch of different directors. So it's not the Moneypenny, because for a second I was like, what the hell? That's Moneypenny? But Barbara Boucher done a lot of these movies. She's incredibly sexy in the film, and I think it's a very authentic performance. And so I definitely want to highlight her 100%.
Right. I like what she asked the priest when she meets. We've just seen her try to seduce the 12-year-old boy. Then she sees the priest and she's like, "What do they decide with the rules over here? Can you get married? Basically, can I have sex with you?" Like she's a freak.
Dude,
But by the way,
she's horny. That's the thing. She's a rich woman. She's probably used to high society, right? She's used to being able to like go out, go to parties, and fulfill that sexual need and desire. And now she's in the small town where she's just trying to hit on little 12-year-old boys and fucking priests,
Did you see in the special features how they did that with the boy actor was never in the room with the naked woman?
Yeah, they got a little person to do
that. Yeah, a little person. And now that that was pointed out, it's like, oh, it's clear as day. So
yeah, it's a very interesting scene. Now, one thing I do like about her a lot is that she's got one of those fucking wave machines or whatever. Like, and I was like, I remember seeing those a lot when I was a kid. And like, where are those? Because I want to get one of those now, man.
I've never seen one that big. Like it was, and that's what she said. But yeah, it kind of blew my mind. Yeah, it's like the same concept as a lava lamp kind of a deal. Yeah, it was very cool.
And if you don't think I don't have a lava lamp in my bedroom, you are wrong, my friend, because I do, and I earned that shit at Stars and Strikes, which is one of those like play for tickets kind of places, right?
Hells yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, style and structure of the movie. We always have a lot of fun stuff to say about the structure of Italian films, and style is always there. So what do you think about style and structure, Vernon?
I think it's the first thing that's going to stand out to anyone that's seen a few gialli before and you watch this one. It's that it takes place in rural Italy, which is probably partially what like really threw me off and made me not think it was a giallo. It's the only one that I've ever seen. I don't know if you've seen any. I think there's only a few others that do that.
Yeah, they're usually very urban, and sometimes they're not even set in Italy.
Right. I think you pointed that out, and maybe I think the majority of them are not set in Italy. The Dario, or at least the popular ones that I've seen, the Dario Argento ones, they're in New York, they're in Germany. So yeah, that's a good point. But as you also pointed out, like usually in a Fulci movie, there's more shortcuts taken. They've got lower budgets, and in this one, it feels like a very big production. So it the camera work is phenomenal. Even a lot of times when there'd be like these chase scenes and it's kind of like shaky, it's not overly shaky. It's still really like solid and beautiful. The lighting, like especially when one of the kids is like running from this guy at night, or whoever's chasing him at night turns out to be the priest. The lighting in those nighttime scenes are incredible. And then just all the usage of the mountains and the scenery and all that. It's hot fire, man. It's one of the things that no matter what you think of the movie, you're probably going to appreciate the look of it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think about the structure of the story?
Oh yeah, it's giallo. That's what it's all about, man. After watching it and seeing what they're doing, I think it's structured pretty goddamn well. I mean, they're setting you up at first. Obviously, they're doing all these red herrings. Typical. You're going to think it's just Giuseppe guy. You're going to think it's this witch guy. And did you see it? Because you're way better at this than me. Let me just ask you, like, did you predict this movie when you first saw it? Can you remember if you did? I sure as shit didn't.
When I first saw it, I was 100% onto the idea that it was the witch or whatever, right? Like I was like, all right, there's that. And then no, it's not something. I think I pieced it together towards the end, if I remember correctly. But then on the rewatch, it's very obvious to me on the rewatch. That's how it works, right?
There's not many. Yeah, there's not many people to even that it could be, right? There's only like 5 or 6 people.
It's like whenever, after you watch a Scream movie and you rewatch it, you're like, "What? It's obvious."
Right. Exactly. Exactly. But the other thing that's interesting about the structure for this one, and I hear that it's common in Italian cinema of the time, but it's got the break in the middle where it actually says it, like end of first tempo or whatever it is, and beginning a second one. That was cool, and I like that I actually did get up and use that, make a little popcorn, take a break. But I was going to point out in the middle of the film there, it shows you all of the red herrings there. They're in the church, and it's like the woman, kind of like in Deep Red. She's like, the killer is in the building. There's a killer in the building. And the way it pans across with the priest in the middle, I don't know if you remember that scene, but it goes, he's in the middle looking all innocent, and it goes to all the victims and shit. And just like after watching it again, it's like, I love that shot, like where they really highlight him, but they do it in a way that you think they're highlighting him for a different reason, but it was really cool. Really stands out.
Yeah. Now, one thing when you're watching it and you notice, like when one of the kids gets killed and he's like waiting on someone, right? And then you see the POV of the killer coming up to him and he looks at the killer and smiles at first and then freaks out. So it's somebody that he knows.
Right.
He wouldn't be smiling at the witch. So they really go out of their way to make us feel like it's Patricia or
Right.
or whatever, right?
The other cool thing that they do with that in the editing is they show her on the phone. She's like setting the phone down at the same time that this kid's getting the phone call to lure him out to get killed. So they do a bunch of cool stuff with the editing where they'll show a murder and then show her. Like really really lay it heavy on that way.
One of my favorite bits with the editing is when her car breaks down and that kid's in her car and she's like, do you know how to change a flat tire? And he's like, you got a tire and iron? And she's like, what do you want? Do you want money or do you want a kiss? And he goes, a kiss. Cut immediately, like a hard ass cut to this kid drowned in a fucking puddle with a big fucking gashing wound in his fucking head. That's a great cut. I love that shit. It's impactful.
Yep. Badass. The editing is fantastic. It's one of the things that really sticks out. Oh, and then just all the little bits where it keeps flashing to the witch in her cave. It's so creepy with her sticking all the pins in these little voodoo dolls, these detailed shots of these like all this muddy area that she's in. It's
digging up the fucking bones of her dead fucking baby that she killed because it was a devil baby or some shit like that. Like what is
they keep
going on?
Contrasting her with the Barbara Boucher's character, who she's in this very fancy modern, she's gorgeous, and they keep from her scenes to the witch's scene where her hair's all frazzled, she's muddy and dirty. It's a polar opposite. It's a really cool contrast between the two scenes and characters.
Yeah, I do think that the story, as far as the structure goes, it has a bit of a slow pace, and that's not going to be to everybody's liking. But being a fan of Italian cinema, being a fan of giallo in particular, that's something I'm kind of accustomed to, right? And I think it has a nice pace, maybe not quite super deliberate, right? And there's room to grow, and maybe you could shave some time off of this and make it a little bit more punchy. But this isn't a movie trying to be punchy. It's not a movie that's anchored by set pieces. It's a movie anchored by unsettling the audience, making the audience feel unsettled from the very beginning. Yeah, let's take a sexy ass woman, show her completely nude, but let's put that in a scene with a small kid, right? Where like it's fucking weird. And they go out of their way to play her up. Like when she's taking that girl and like dragging her to go buy her a new doll. Like she's trying, like in hindsight, we know she's trying to do something nice for this girl, but it seems very nefarious while it's actually happening, right? I think that the use of the red herrings and kind of setting them up and then immediately, not too long after the setup, taking it down, right? Like Giuseppe, right? For instance, first red herring, and immediately they're like, nope, not him, right? And then the witch, she honestly thinks it's her because she's doing this voodoo stuff, right? Because these kids are shits, and they're like playing around and trying to dig up her dead kid and shit like that, right? And I think she truly believes that she caused it, and maybe there's a supernatural element to the film where she does.
Right. Because that's what I was saying. The way she explains it, she's like, well, I'm using this voodoo magic, and it's not, I'm killing them with this, but it makes someone else kill them. It's like, well, that's exactly what happens. She sticks these things and someone else kills them. But yeah, I think I bet I'm with you. I don't believe that is the case, but it is like an odd thing to do where you could look at it as a supernatural film.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an interpretation, right? So structure-wise, I mean, I wouldn't say it's clunky in the slightest. I think it has a good pace, but it's not quite as deliberate as it could be. It's not like doom, like Punchy would be like doom, 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 right? Deliberate would be like doom, 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 doom. And this one's more like doom, 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 doom.
It's like my favorite bit you've ever done.
Right? All right, thank you for that. But
wait, well, let me before we move on, while we're on style, I just got to point out like my favorite shot in the movie is when they show it's like dawn, and they're showing the woman to go find the dead body in the pool of water, and it's just big wide shot of the whole village in the morning, where like it's zoomed in, then it gets wider and wider and wider. You see movement coming down. It's very cool, and you could never get that like anywhere other than that location, or a location very similar to that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, style-wise, excellent use of the location. Probably some of Fulci's best use of location in all of his filmography that I have seen, at least. Now, there's still some I haven't seen, like Murder Rock. Like, let's fucking do Murder Rock, Verno.
Totally.
I'm down for it. So it is oozing style. Now, when we think about like giallo, and we think about the style associated, we usually think of flamboyant colors and camera movement and stuff like that. This has the camera movement, but instead of the colors, it has that natural setting. So much of this takes place during the day, which is, we were talking about this with Triangle on Saturday night on DHS, right? And the idea of it's never easy to make a movie, right? But to make an atmospheric movie, especially horror or a mystery, it's easier to do that with nighttime shots because you can play with shadow, you can play with lighting and stuff like that. When you're in the broad daylight, there's only so much you can do. The film is beautifully shot. It is masterfully composed, I think is what we're supposed to say there. It's really well done. Totally. And I think you mentioned the camera movement. The camera movement is freaking fantastic in this movie. The way that they pan, the way they zoom. Fulci's doing his best Brian De Palma years before Brian De Palma gets known for that. With that, I don't remember the exact technical term. It's not full focus because it's like a split screen that they're putting together. They're compositing these two things together, but where you can see the background in total focus and the person in the front in total focus. And there's this little bit of a blur in front of it, but it gives me this dreamlike, ethereal kind of quality that I really like. We talked about that last week in Dress to Kill. So that comes through. I really, really like the style of this film. I think the structure could be ironed out just a little bit, but it's not too far off for what it is.
Yeah, so I think. Do you think it got the third act of the movie? There's a bit where it slows up for me. Once you have Barbara Boucher's character and the reporter, they're like teamed up together and they're going to solve the crime. For whatever reason, I felt like it got a little slow in the third act.
Yeah, you're probably right there. That's probably where it could like get trimmed down maybe just a little bit, right? Get to the reveal a little bit quicker, maybe build that up just a little bit more, because I think the movie is thematically trying to say some stuff, but it doesn't really quite land every bit of it because they kind of rush into the killer's motive and the reveal of the killer. And they're playing so many red herrings, man. The witch lady, Patricia's character, Giuseppe, the mother of the priest, right? And, they're playing a lot with that. So when they get to the real, but that's also a thing that happens with a lot of these Italian films is that they get to the end, they kill the killer and it's over. It's just fucking over.
Right.
It's all done.
I like that.
I do too. Because it's like, we're not going to waste your time. You know, you've been here for an hour and 45 minutes. Time to go. Time to leave the theater or the drive-in or whatever, right?
It kind of goes to show you that, like, it's not about the characters, because we don't really care that much about how the characters are going to react to this afterwards. You know what I mean? Like Italian cinema, that's not what they're so much concerned with. So,
yeah, for sure. The music is done by Rizio Ortolani. All right, and he has done some things. I'm looking through right now to see if there's anything that I know off the top of my head. Let's see. I know that there's something that he's done that is known. I'm looking for it. Don't torture Duckling. Okay, I know that one. Let's see. All right, but basically what I'm trying to say is this is not the typical score that I associate with the Fulci film. Oh, he did Cannibal Holocaust. That's the one. That's the one. Okay. It's the same composer as Cannibal Holocaust. That makes some sense when you think about that, right? The music is not my favorite part. And unfortunately, that's usually one of my favorite parts in a Fulci film, but usually it's Fabio Frizzi, right? The score for Zombie, the score for The Beyond, the score for City of the Living Dead. Those are amazing scores. They're a little bit more synth-driven. In 1972, that's not what we're doing. So the music's fine, and I like it. I mostly like it when they're doing that. Right. Other than that, it sounds like some bullshit Hallmark shit. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of throws me out. It's a little too I don't know, it's a little too like fantasy and like, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it right now, but it's just, it doesn't quite capture the essence and tone of the film for me. What do you think about the music?
I like the music actually quite a bit, but it's exactly what you said. This is nothing. It's kind of like the scene, the setting, where this is the most like Italian feeling music. You know, usually you're getting this like rock. This is classical with a little bit of psycho influence on it. But the way it opens with that like that kind of like psycho-y, echoey psycho bit, I love that when it goes back to that. And then it gets really pretty and it gets really dark. So I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. It's not the best quality of music. It sounds a little rough at times and it's a little high in the mix, but I think it's pretty damn good. And it really feels like it fits the rural setting of the movie. And that I'll point out the what are they playing? Do you know this the American? There's like this like kind of like funky James Brown sounding song that they're playing while they're beating the witch.
Yes, and then I think I love about that is then it gets to this very like soft, melancholy thing when she's climbing up the mountain to the grave of her dead child, and she dies there as people are driving by, choosing to ignore her, right? Like, oh my goodness, like that's a really good moment at the film. Don't worry, Jelani, it's just me and Verno up here dying on stage, you know. Don't worry about no, I'm just kidding. I think we're actually having a good show. But yeah, it just turned out to be one of those nights where Perry is. Probably doesn't understand time zones. But and Brooks, who knows where Brooks is? I hope everybody's okay.
The scene you're pointing out, that is so powerful. Like you've never seen anything like that. It's a great example where if you're not in the mood for like a slower movie, because it goes on and on and on, and it's dragged out. But if you're in the mood for that, and you're, especially if you do feel the music there with what they're playing, it's fucking incredible. I love the way that the people that are driving by, just that quick look you see. There's like these vacationers, and they're seeing this poor woman dying on the side of the road, and they look over, they pretend like they don't see it and shit. It says a lot right there in that scene. It's definitely highlighted. That's the highlight of the movie, is that whole set piece there.
Absolutely. Me. I thought we were about to wrap this up, but we can't wrap it up without my man himself. It's Brooks. What is up, my man?
What's up?
Bro, we've been stretching this out as much as we could, man. No, actually, Verno, I think we've had a great conversation. I think you've convinced me that I just need to have one panelist on PCP Movie Night from now on. So
there you go.
Brooks, you're fired. Anyway, but we got Jelani at least in the chat letting us know. He says, too many red herrings, by the way. I knew it was the priest from the jump. Did you?
Yeah, I guess the priest too. Like, well, I didn't guess. I just like saw the priest. I'm like, he's the killer. And then when the end happened, I was like, holy shit, I was right.
You just randomly guessed. You're just like throwing dice. Like it's the priest.
Like, I don't like that guy. He's the killer.
All right, Brooks, why don't you tell us overall what you thought about this movie, and obviously your first time watching it, right?
Yeah, I thought it was all right. It was a pretty good. I like the mystery aspect of it. Like probably because I managed to guess the killer, but it is it's a very grim movie, but it is interesting. Like I will say that. Like I thought it was pretty good.
When we highlighted cast, I highlighted the hot chick from the beginning. And Jelani, by the way, since you're watching it, she was Moneypenny in Casino Royale, but not in any of the MGM Bond movies. And Verno mentioned the not the detective, because there's no detective in any of these giallo films that actually solves the fucking murder. It's always somebody else. He mentioned the reporter. Do you got a performance you want to highlight?
Oh, I like the voodoo doll woman. Yes. Like especially like the scene where she's like confessing. He's like, I'll break them. You know, before she has her fit and she starts foaming at the mouth. I was like, yeah, that's my favorite character right there.
Yeah. I saw one person on YouTube, and there's not a lot of coverage of this movie on YouTube, right? I was really expecting the horror geek to show something, you know, because he loves Italian cinema, right? But like this one guy I saw was like, yeah, I thought she was over the top, and she like dropping down, shaking, foaming at the mouth. I was like, I fucking love that bit, man.
Yeah.
It was insane. I love acting. Her. She says "you bastards" earlier, or what is it? No, I break you. She's like, and I told them I break you, and then she says it again a couple of minutes later, and it's like it's so funny every time.
I'm gonna start using that in my real life. You know, to be like, I break you.
I feel like there's some like '80s villain that does say that in like an '80s action movie. Fucking Dolph Lundgren. I break you.
Yeah, right.
I'll break him.
I'll break you.
Yeah,
I always thought that Bane was a big Rocky IV fan. Maybe he's a Don't Torture a Duckling fan. You know what I'm saying? And then I will break you, Batman.
He just pulls out a little Batman doll, starts sticking pins.
He starts just fucking jabbing the shit out of it, right?
Take that, Dark Knight.
What do you think about the style and structure, Brooks?
I think it's pretty good. I thought it started off a little slow. Like in the beginning, I was kind of thinking, oh, this movie's kind of boring, but it started to pick up like about halfway through, and I really liked the ending. So I thought it was pretty well structured for like a this kind of mystery movie.
What about the style?
It does kind of remind me of like Fulci's other stuff. You know, it does have that kind of I guess darkness in a way to it, but like it doesn't have like the ridiculous, hilarious, over the top stuff like in like a zombie stuff. Like you don't see like nobody fights a shark or anything like that. So
nobody gets like impaled and gouged, their eyes gouged out and shit like that.
Yeah, no eye gouges. Like it's pretty tame. Well, aside from the child murder aspect, I suppose. Like I think like the whole part in the beginning where she digs up the kid skeleton, I thought that was like really like creepy. I was like, why is she doing that? And like then you find out later on that, you know, she wasn't the one who actually did it. Like the kids had done it. And like these kids are kind of assholes. Like it's kind of like, you know, well, you know, maybe, you know, sometimes you push your luck and, you know, you piss off the wrong person.
You get broken.
Yeah, you get broken.
I break you.
You get broke when you go woke.
What a woke film. What did you think about the so like there's the chain scene where they're like whipping her with the chains and shit like that, right? And and I feel bad because every time I watch this movie and she's like that dude's just standing there and she's behind him and he just like fucking bam! Like it just cracks me the fuck up.
Backhands her. Like,
yes.
Damn, dude.
There's a lot of slapping in these films, man. Like when they like even at the end when they should be duking it out, they're just slapping each other and shit like that, man. Which I think is pretty funny. Actually, what do you think about the priest though when he gets revealed as the killer and he falls off the cliff and is obviously a dummy and he's fucking hitting every goddamn rock on the way down and his head's like literally exploding, dude. We can see the fucking flashes and shit like that, like sparks flying out. Like, what is this dude? A transformer? Like, what's
the Power Ranger?
Yeah, is he a Power Ranger?
Every time you
Dude, Power Rangers, Super Sentai started a few years after this. Maybe that was the inspiration
Yeah, I bet.
for Go Renter, right? Maybe. You never know. You never know.
We need a little bit of Don't Torture a Duckling in this children's series.
That was a movie about kids too. Now, Brian watched this movie. He just asked to watch it because since he's been doing some of these films with us, he's really getting into Italian horror, right? And he's loved everything we've done. So he asked me like a couple weeks ago if he could borrow my copy of Don't Torture a Duckling right here. And he did. And he messaged me one day and he goes, this movie's pretty dark, bro. I'm like, yeah, dude, it deals with child murder and it deals with some heavy stuff. And even thematically, it deals with some interesting stuff. But before we get to that, what do you think about the music in the film, Jelaine? I mean, Brooks, God damn it. Sorry.
I like it. It does kind of has that soap opera-y sound to it, like in the last movie we watched a little bit. But I think it works well for the movie. It lets you know that this is very dramatic. That this movie about child murder is serious business.
Yeah. One thing we've been talking about is, unlike a lot of giallo, which takes place in an urban setting, right? This one's in that rural setting. What did you think about the use of the locations?
I think it works because it's like it feels so empty, like there's so much space, like, and it's kind of like, when you have a murder mystery like that, it's like it could be anybody, like there's all these kind of wacky characters too, like, the crazy the guy from the beginning who's chasing the kids off, what was his name?
Giuseppe.
Yeah, Giuseppe, yeah. And like of course there's like a voodoo priest or something that apparently lives here. Francesco, I guess his name was.
Yeah.
And it's like it seems like a very like a place almost like a lost in time in a way, like, and like, you have this modern detective guy, who's like always like, oh, he's like looking down his nose at everybody about the superstition and everything like that. And I like the setting of this movie because it feels like a very old world setting, like you get the idea that like, things have always been this way and like, very little has changed over time in this place.
It's a juxtaposition that I really like though, with that old world that you were talking about mixed with the new. Like there's this big interstate. They go out of their way to show that. And like one of the things I love visually in art and in cinema in particular is like modern infrastructure in a like not modern type setting, right? And to show like the advancement of society, but this is like the village that's been passed by, right? Like one thing I learned watching some of the commentary by a Fulci expert is Giuseppe, who we know is he finds this kid dead. He's trying to like, I can make some money out of this and throw a ransom out. First of all, he's dumb as fuck, right? But apparently the amount of money, and I don't remember lire or whatever. Like, I don't know what the exchange rate was in 1972, but apparently what he asked for was a paltry amount of money, which is meant to kind of make the statement of how poor this village is, this town is compared to the rest of Italy, right? And I like that kind of idea to it.
There was an interesting like bit like where it's kind of like, even like the modern guys are kind of where like he's talking about the little girl, the detective. He's like when the lady is like talking to her, and he's like he's like I think he says she was subnormal.
Yes,
something like that.
He's like, got a couple banger lines.
Damn, dude.
She's subnormal. Later on, he's like, well, no, you don't understand. She's not stupid. She's retarded. And it's like, whoa, hey, buddy.
Well, that was a technical term back then.
Exactly. Right? I mean, it still is a technical term. It just got overused in the improper ways. But it stands out. There's a few of these movies that will say that, and you can't help it. It's so damn funny. Like, I'm not the only piece of shit that laughed at that. You guys come on.
One piece of shit that I guarantee laughed at that was Jelani. What is up, our friend?
Well, kids. Hey, sorry I'm late at work. Things happen.
No worries, man. I know you're sitting there watching, being like, y'all being too nice to this film. So let's have Jelani in here. Bring us to ground, man. What'd you think overall?
This movie movie garbage. I don't know why y'all love this movie so much. This movie is not garbage.
Love it.
Sorry. I just want to shit on your hopes and dreams. Man. Okay, I understand.
Your internet connection's garbage. I'll tell you that, bro.
Yeah, I know.
This movie's better than your internet right now. I'll tell you that.
I'll get over it. But anyway, I mean, I love you guys. You guys are great. And Fulci does great stuff with like New York Ripper. It's funnier, it's quieter. But this movie has the thing of being boring. It's to the level of boring for me, and I want to talk down anything you guys said. Barbara Boucher can get it. First of all, great character. I thought she was in on it. I'm pretty sure she was in it, and because she called the kid to his death, so that was kind of weird. The witch was kind of crazy. I thought, hey, we witch. Hey, we gotta stick some stuff. We gotta stick some needles and stuff. And I thought, those were Argento's heads. Shot well. I like the kid. You even hear what I'm saying? I don't. But
yeah, we can hear you a little bit.
Enough.
It's just, oh God. I give up. Yeah. 2 gigs. I'm out.
All right.
I'm trying to do the good Wi-Fi. I'm on the good Wi-Fi.
Well, I appreciate you popping in.
All right, I'm out. Be
Okay.
good. 2 gigs. No figure reviews. My Wi-Fi's crap. So yeah, not the best. I like the music when the lady gets beat to death. I don't know if y'all meant that or not.
Yeah,
rock music, that was cool. Fulci has his moments now that I've seen this movie. It's too slow. It's too boring. I found out the priest. I knew it was the priest. The second song. I was like, he's way too handsome, like not to be a killer. And I was like, oh yeah, and he's a priest, and he's around young boys, and that connotation. So I was like, yeah, that's him. I'm definitely sure that's him. And just I don't know. I will say this though, it's better than Dress to Kill because it doesn't have any real fake out. Well, they did have a fake out in this, didn't they? Was there a fake out in this movie? Like you think it's one thing and
it looked like it was the mother instead of the priest. Like they tried to
for a little while. Yeah.
3 fake outs. You think it's Giuseppe, you think it's the witch, you think it's the mother.
Yeah, but there's no like fucking dream sequence where like you think something's happening, they wake up
right,
and
right. This is way better than Dress to Kill. I will say that. It's just it doesn't need to start on a dream, end on a dream. It was just these kids playing. I really felt like at least one of those kids was going to make it. At least the one saw the kid. I don't know. The kid was like that saw Barbara Boucher like naked, and like I thought he was gonna live. Like not live, but just survive through a good bit of that movie. And after a while, the kids were indiscriminate.
For someone who hates kids so much in film, I'm surprised you don't like this movie more because they all fucking die.
Yeah, they all died, but they weren't annoying. They weren't annoying children. They were just kids being kids, smoking cigarettes, looking at titties. That's how they were. They're just like, we want to see these. We don't see this happen. They weren't like in the story, like messing up everything. Hey, I brought this killer to our house. Let's be friends. You know what I'm saying? It didn't have nothing happen in this movie. These kids were like innocent, plain children, just living their lives, being kids, just doing what they need to do. And they just got horribly killed by this random priest who just didn't give a damn. I don't know what his issue was. I have no clue. Don't care. His motivations were weak, other than he is a priest and he doesn't like kids.
He's trying to save them.
He's trying to save them because that's something that gets like
because they're
perverted,
right? They're perverted and they need to be but that's the thing. It took too long to get to that for me. Even though it was a very short movie, it just felt like it was forever. I was like, get to the point. Tell me what you're trying to get to me. stop putting all these damn red herrings in it. Like, don't make me think it's one person and then it's not another person. I knew it wasn't the first guy. Did they even release the first guy, Nicoletto? The guy that like, hey, I hate you kids. Giuseppe, I hate you kids. You know, did they even release him or like let him go? Did he get killed like the wife did? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like the witch did.
I don't remember what happened to him. What did happen to him?
Yeah, nothing. He just got arrested. That was the end. It's like he
should still be fucking locked up. He's still doing ransoms and shit. He belongs in jail for a little
cool,
bit.
Right?
Yeah.
You find a dead kid, you don't like fucking put the body on ransom. You fucking call the police and let them know, right? You know,
like there's a dead body. Yeah, there's a dead body here. But I don't know. I'm just trying to still put my head around it or wrap my head around the movie. I may need to watch it again, but I'm not. First time watching it, wasn't a big fan. If Mike was trying to say that last week, and he was right. Just not that I didn't like the kids. It's just it felt aimless. The movie felt aimless. We didn't have a main character for a long time. We didn't get our main characters to the third act, and it's like, oh, it's the reporter guy and Barbara Boucher. You know what I'm saying? And it just felt you couldn't tell who the main characters were, and she should have been a part of this. Like, she's the one that's like ushering these kids to their death. She's always in the area, and it's like, oh, she was tempted. So the priest is like in the background, like, oh, she was tempted, but she took those children. She was, and maybe they need to die now. You know, and it felt aimless for a long time. Not a main character. No real person that you follow, that you understand what's going on with the series. I mean, that's my general thoughts on it. I need to probably watch it again to understand it a little more. Because I mean, I watched New York Ripper again, and I this is the second time watching. I forgot that I'd watched it for last year, and I watched it again. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this movie. The guy was the quacking guy. And he wasn't really out of the blue. He was in a dream. So it was a dream fake out, which I'm not happy with Fulci. But it was a fake out that kind of made sense. I don't know. If it fakes you out, it was like on that girl's mind that her boyfriend is the killer and it tried to kill her. And I don't know. It's just weird setup. But Fulci's good at that. Fulci's good at visual storytelling. He tells his stories. You look at them and you're like, damn, it looks good. Ain't no story, just like Argento. And it's kind of the Italian filmmaker's way of giallo. And this isn't a giallo. I don't believe it's a giallo because
it's giallo because it's the murder mystery, right? By the way, you're crystal clear now, so you're good.
Cool. Well, I had to get my internet. My internet's off my phone. That's the only way it will work. So it comes in when it wants to. But this is the strongest Wi-Fi connection I've had in a long time. And I just want to get on here. This movie's garbage. It's garbage. It's garbage.
Now you were talking to me last night. We were chatting, and you had mentioned that you had a problem with some of the aspects of the woman coming onto these kids.
Yep. Didn't really like it. I don't know why she was like setting it up to be with, like, the first scene you see of her is her sunbathing nude, and like this kid's giving her orange aid. First of all, why is that kid going down there in the first place? Like, you knew. I'm sure those adults, the parents knew that she was down here butt naked, you know, doing that. But then she turns around and looks at him and like gives him the come hither stare. Come here, you can look at me. Come this way. Look up. I'm like,
see, what I mentioned earlier was I think that because she's kind of wealthy, right? She's had this shadiness going on with her past with drugs, and they keep mentioning it, and then they're like, you're looking for hashish, marijuana. I'm like, wait, that's it?
That's not drugs.
I thought she was like addicted to heroin or some shit, man. Yeah, that's like it's an herbal remedy. Anyway,
but yeah,
I think that she's bored, man. I think she's bored and horny. And the priest won't give him up.
Around, right? Because he's too handsome and killing kids.
She's just fucking with him, I think.
Yeah,
I think she's teasing.
Yeah, But yeah, and it's the 70s and they do shit like that. And it's fine. Of course, that wouldn't play now with our sensibilities.
It was, from what the
weird.
special features say, it was pretty controversial in Italy at the time. It was kind of a big deal.
Yes, I am, Fable. Yes, I am.
What do you think about the music, Jelani?
I liked it. It's fine. I mean, it had moments because it mixes in with New York Ripper for me because I compare it because I just watched it, and it's good. It's haunting in parts. I like when the kids are being stalked and that music is like very suspenseful in that part in those parts. Not the last kid because last kid's just like, "Hi, lady, want to change the tire?" Man, dead. You know,
right, it's my favorite jump cut in the movie, man. They're like, "You want
Hi.
money or a kiss? A kiss."
Kiss, dead. You should have took the money. Always take the money. But it was fun. Like I said, I like the whatever that rock music was playing, whatever rock song that was playing when the witch got beat. I love that song. I don't know, that song slapped. It was random.
That was Foghat, Jelani.
Foghat.
No, I'm just kidding. That wasn't Foghat. I'm just joking. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that would have been a crazy song to have your child, your murder scene go.
You get murdered.
All right, take it easy.
No,
I didn't get, was someone playing that on the scene? Was that the dudes playing it? It felt like there was like a radio playing it.
They're
Right?
like, this is our fucking mob justice fucking music,
Right.
man.
Yeah. And they
I
got
thought they were trying to like drown out any screams or something or anything.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
That's what it was. And I loved it. I don't know why. I liked her death. While the music was in the playing. Not that women beating is evil and all this stuff. I'm just saying that the kills in this weren't satisfying except for that one for some odd reason.
You tell me you didn't like the fucking priest's head Power Ranger exploding every time it had impacted on the fucking rock?
So stupid. That was the dumbest shit I ever saw. I was like, oh God, he got pushed off the side and he's hitting every corner and now he's thinking about the boys. And I'm like, who gives a shit? He's dead. Kill him. Help. Do that shit, but don't do that shit so slow. Just drop him. It's it. Credits.
Do it like Midsummer, right? Just boom.
Every giallo, if the killer's there, he's like, and that's it. Credits. End. Finny.
What do you guys think they did there? I think like they took like some rock structure, they tipped it on its side, and they were just like dropping the dummy and bouncing it off the sides, right? If you look at it,
yeah,
right. It
they
looks easy as hell, but it's fun.
Had some kind of like they had some kind of explosive hit, so that when it would hit, it would like blow up. And you still see all the sparks and shit. Brooks is the one that said it was like a Power Ranger, bro. Like,
I didn't notice the sparks. Okay.
Yeah, sparks come out.
You didn't notice the sparks, Verno?
Yeah, dude.
You gotta watch it again, bro. You see sparks like fire. In one point, I saw fire come out of this dude's fucking head. I'm like, this dude is getting got. This dude's really getting fucking killed.
The second I saw him, like I said before, I was like, yeah, he's doing it, and he's gonna die ugly. And he died ugly. It was just a weird fall, just a weird draggy, slow motion.
It was literally dragging. They're dragging his fucking ass across that fucking cliff, man. I loved it. All right, so what's this movie saying? What is the theme? Verno, why don't you kick us off with that? What's this movie speaking to you?
Well, it's funny, dude, because lately I've been watching a lot of the commentary, so I almost feel like I'm cheating. But I'm going to kind of disagree to a degree with what the dude, this Fulci expert, brings up in the commentary. And he's talking a lot about how it's what we've mentioned already before. It's got the rule versus the city, and the rule in kind of invading, or the city invading the rule. And he was kind of talking a lot like how the detective that comes in, he keeps dismissing the superstitions, and he's dismissing the locals, and they're kind of underneath him. And we, as the audience, we kind of get put in that situation where we start to look down on Giuseppe, and we think, okay, this guy is a pervert. He's the killer. Oh, this woman, this witch woman, she's from the caves. She must be the killer. And then we find out it's not. It's the priest. It's not these people we're looking down on. But if you look at Giuseppe and you look at the witch woman, they're terrible fucking people. Giuseppe, we
Mhm.
know he's doing this ransom bit. The witch, she tried to kill these people. She just thought that the voodoo stuff was the way to go about
Work
doing it. So she's not an innocent in it either, which it doesn't really change the way I felt about that scene where you see her die. You still feel bad for her, but it's kind of like conflicted now because you don't feel as bad as maybe you could feel. And then the priest at the end, he's part of an institution, but it's not an institution that's outside of this rural environment. So it's, you know what I mean? It doesn't really, the whole rule versus the city doesn't 100% jive, even though that's there. It's not like cut and dry. It's a little more nuanced. Maybe that's what he was going for, but it's not super clear to me what the theme is. So I'm 100%. So I'm obviously curious to see what you guys have to say.
Well, I like how instead of telling us what you thought the theme was about, you were like, well, I don't agree with this guy in the commentary.
Right.
But that's good. I like it. But you also point out that is an element there, right? And it's a visual element for sure, because we mentioned that, like seeing the interstate encroaching in on the fucking city, you know, I mean, on this like small village and like Giuseppe, I don't know what exactly the amount that he's asking for in the ransom equals to, but I bet it equals to however much it costs to get one of those sex workers in the beginning of the film to give it up to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think he just wants to bust a nut is what he's trying to do, right? The entire time. You can watch the birdie disappear. At least that his buddy's got a heart.
How about their level of prostitutes there, by the way? It's like, it couldn't have been that much money.
Hey, man, we don't kink shame here, man.
It's not what you picture in your head when you picture prostitutes.
Well, that's the thing, though, is like, yeah, I don't want to dive too much into it, but like, you know, yeah. Anyway, Brooks, what about you? What's this movie speaking to you?
I think it's about how, like, you know, a lot of the times, like, people use fear to justify their abhorrent actions. Like, it's like, because, you know, that it really, like, the scene where the witch woman is getting beaten, it's like, you know, the whole idea of like vigilante or mob justice. It's like they're using, like, you know, the idea that you know, they need to, you know, take care of this killer, and like they're justified because, you know, they're so sure of themselves. And like, especially when it comes to children, like, you know, people will like use that as a way to justify, you know, doing things that, you know, under normal circumstances they would say was wrong, because, like, you know, they didn't know for sure that this woman had actually done it, but, you know, they just convinced themselves that, you know, it's good enough that, you know, she said she did, so it's okay for us to, you know, take things into our own hands. And then
evil dies tonight.
Yeah, and I have to fucking, and I have to suffer the consequences. Like, they don't even, you know, if they'd have turned themselves in afterwards, you know, that would have been one thing, but they didn't. They beat her to death, and then they just slunk off and went back to their normal lives. And they thought that was okay because, you know, they were the avatars of justice or whatever. And, you know, that's not, you know, it's not right. It's not good. You know, that's not something that people should do because, you know, they were wrong and they murdered a woman for no good reason. So, you know, it's kind of that, you know, slippery slope idea, you know, like who is fit to dispense justice?
Yeah, that's a good point, man. Absolutely. That is definitely a part of the theme, I think. What about you, Jelaine? Did you pick up on the theme?
I think it's like the loss of innocence with children. These kids I think they were innocent to begin with. They were just, like I said before, they were just living their lives, like smoking cigarettes.
The kids come across as very authentic, right?
They're very real kids. They didn't feel like jerks. I really liked the kids in this movie. I really did, and I was like really sad to see like I said, especially the main kid go. Like, and I was like, man, that's really sucks. I mean,
McKelly, right? McKelly.
Yeah, McKelly. And it was.
I love it now. I know why Jelaine doesn't like the film, because he's like, I liked a movie with children.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, it's still garbage, but it's slow, boring garbage that it took me out of it from a lot of places. But at the same time, it had heart. It had heart in it, and the heart were the kids, and it feels like their innocence was stolen by, of course, their lives being taken. Of course, the town's mob rule, what all these other things happened to them. or it happened to the people that they thought did it. But that priest was all in the background the entire time. You know, he had his own twisted ideology. These kids are twisted and evil, and I have to cleanse them to save their souls. And that's not a good plan. It's not a good plan in life. It's not a good plan to follow your psychotic dreams. Maybe take some medicine. Maybe get a couple hugs. Maybe figure out what your life's about. And maybe like quit the priesthood and try something else. I don't know. Your life is too short for you to be acting a fool. That's what I got from it. And now my camera's up. What is this?
I don't know, but it's interesting. It looks like a fucking 80s music video is what's going on, man. I love it. For me, you guys are all there. The rural versus the invasion of the urban on the rural, the old versus the new, the mob rule, the loss of innocence, right? And ultimately, I think
he's doing the bit.
I am doing the bit. All right. I haven't done that in a while. Man. Jillian just made me think about it again. I think it's a criticism of the Catholic Church. That's what I think, right? I mean, it's got all of those elements in there, but I think Fulci, in a sort of pseudo like subtle way, is pointing a finger at the Catholic Church, right? And I don't know what happened to Fulci as a kid. I don't know his background or anything like that. But the idea that the killer's the priest, the justification of the killer is Jelani is gone. But at least we got his rating. So the killer's a priest. The killer is, his motivation is trying to save the souls of these kids who he thinks is going kind of wayward, right? And I think that the Patricia stuff with her trying to seduce these kids is a setup for an unspoken thing that's going on towards the end of the film, where there's some kind of sexual desire or lust or something after these kids. I'm not saying that this dude's trying to molest these kids or anything, but he is so concerned with saving their souls that sometimes, especially folks that can get super heavy into a religion or an ideology or something like that, you get to a point where the ends justify the means, right? And that's what's happening with this dude. He is, I'm sure, a fervent believer, right? Even though, here's one of the things, he's talking about how the kids keep slipping more and more into sin. And what's the first sinful thing we see these kids do? Smoking a cigarette, right? What do we see the priest do? Smoking a cigarette.
Okay. It takes him some convincing, but he does do it.
But he wants it, and he does it. And as soon as somebody shows up, what is it? He puts that shit out, right? It's a lack of ownership of his own desire, right? And does that relate somehow to the kids or a sexual nature? I don't know. Right. But I do believe that criticism is there. I think it's very subtle because I think it's a very bold statement to make in Italian cinema in 1972. The Vatican is its own separate entity, but it's within Italy. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's a very, very real thing that's there. And I think that the stuff with Patricia or whatever, is it Patricia or is it Patricia? I don't know.
Patricia.
Okay, so Patricia at the beginning. Here's the thing.
It's Italian.
So many of us would be like, I don't think it's that creepy if I was 12 years old and some hot chick was nude. I would fuck yeah. I'd be just like him. I'd be a little bit nervous, a little bit lying. Yeah, I've had sex lots of times. You lying piece of shit.
I love that.
I love it too, right? But I think that that's setting up something okay, it would be uncomfortable if they showed the priest in that situation. It's still uncomfortable to see her in that situation, but not as uncomfortable. And it shows a little bit of the hypocrisy, right? Because so many of us as 12-year-old boys would love to have a Patricia in our lives.
Every one of us.
Right?
Every one of us. In the hashish.
Even if she's just a cocker or if she's just a cocker of a pussy tease, right? You know what I'm saying? So many of us would love to have that in our lives, but reverse it, flip it. Now we're uncomfortable. So does the gender have something to do with it? Does the sexuality have something to do with it? Maybe there's a statement there. I don't know. Probably not. But Fulci has a problem with priests. He has a problem with the Catholic Church. Maybe because of everything we know now in 2023 about the history of the church in the 20th century, and even hopefully not, but probably even until today, like everything that we know, I'm imprinting that on this, and that's kind of the message I'm getting.
There are a lot of different people in.
Satan?
What the fuck? All right,
like
that's what I'm picking up, right? I'm picking up the idea that there is a criticism of the church in this movie, and I think Fulci's trying to be very careful because it's still sort of early in his career. He hasn't quite made it to the point where he can just balls to the wall, do whatever the fuck he wants. He doesn't have people toe banging people in this one. You know what I'm saying?
True.
That's 10 years later. You know, Fulci, here's the thing. I think Fulci's a little bit of a pervert, man. Right?
Really?
And I think that maybe he probably, I don't know. I'm not the Fulci expert. You know, they didn't call me to do the commentary, right? I'm a little bit more of an Argento expert, right? And he's got issues with his mother. I think Fulci has issues with his church, right? And I think that that's something that's shining through in this movie. All right, now it's
he has problems with his father.
Hey, and you're right, Fish Tropic Canada. Everybody is a pervert. You're right, and now we can just be more open about our perverted natures, which I'm very comfortable with because we are sex positive here, and pervert, kink positive, whatever the fuck. Anyway, moving
we all
on.
just go Master Roshi's when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
No,
There's a little Master Roshi in all of us.
maybe, yeah, maybe. All right, time to rate the film. Out there in the chat, if you have seen Don't Torture a Duckling out of 5 possible, you digs, what do you give it? And Verno, you're going to kick us off, bro.
I'll kick you guys off. I'll give it a 3.5. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I actually think, like, visually, I think I even like it more than Tenebrae, the last giallo I was on to talk with you guys about. I really do, dude. I love the look of the film, dude. I was thinking about it. And it never takes any scenes off. It's one that you can really just like zone in on, just appreciate the look of it throughout the entire film. I could see why you could feel like it was slow. Jelani, I'm sure it felt slow, but after a few watches, I enjoyed the pace of the movie actually quite a bit. Again, if you
watched this 4 times, didn't you?
Over the past 3 months, I think so, just about. But and that says a lot too, because if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't have made it to number 3. So I think it's one of Fulci's best. It might be Fulci's best film that I've seen. I like Zombie better. I like The Beyond better. But as far as like just like putting together a really cohesive story with great shots and great lighting, solid characters, good performances, it makes sense. It's got a beginning, middle, and an end. I think it's maybe the best one that I've seen him do it. I'm really looking forward to checking out Lizard in a Woman's Skin because I hear a lot of people like that better and say that's an even better giallo. But this is his highest rated film, like on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic and all that. And I could see why after watching it for sure. So 3.5, pretty solid. If you're into giallo, it's definitely, I'd say it's a must watch for sure if you're into giallo.
Nice. 3.5 from Verno. What about you, Brooks?
Yeah, I'd give it a 3.5 too. It does start off a little slow, but I really liked the ending, and I did like the mystery aspect. Like the whole idea of these this town full of these crazy characters, and the whodunit aspect. So I think it's above, slightly above average for me. I'd watch it again, I think. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
So I'm sorry. What did she say? 3.5? I kind of blanked out there.
Yeah, 3.5.
Okay, that's what I thought you said. All right. What about you, Jelani? You said a 2. Would you stand by that?
Nah, I give it 2.5. It's good, but then there's like it's too slow. You don't have a main character throughout. I didn't like the tease with the kid. Although it was nice, but it felt weird because there's a kid there. And I don't know. There's something about it that the crime of it being boring for me. It was well shot.
Perry, we're glad you're okay, Perry. We're glad
Perry's
you're good.
alive.
Perry's alive.
Thank goodness. But I mean, it's fine. And Vernon Brooks, I understand. I get it. It's an artsy film. It's shot brilliantly. It's got great music. It's got great performances. It does. It really does. But it has the crime of being boring to me. And if you can't excite me in the first like 5 minutes of a movie, or at least give me like that piece where I'm just like, you got me. You hooked me. I didn't get that hook. And the Witch didn't get me either, son. It was just weird. And I don't know. I mean, I'll watch it again. I'm pretty sure I'll watch it again. And probably under better circumstances. I don't know. I had weird shit going on yesterday when I saw it. So maybe that may have played a factor in it, but at the same time, its only crime to me was that it was boring. So 2.5.
All right, 2.5 from Jelani. For me, I'm going to agree with Verno and Brooks and Two Gun Pedro and give it a 3.5. You digs. It is not my favorite Fulci film by far. The Beyond is a 5 for me. Mm-hmm. I love that fucking movie. Zombie is a 5 for me. Because
5.
I mean, what else do you see an underwater shark versus zombie scene? You've never seen that again, right? It's never again. I like it. I think it's good. I think it's trying to make some statements. It does drag a little bit at times. Verno mentioned in the third act, maybe towards the beginning of that, it kind of slows up just a little bit. Doesn't quite hit the punch at the end exactly the way it should, but I do like it. Technically, it is a very masterful film. The use of the location, the use of the setting, which is the location. The use of locations, the use of the setting. So I don't know why I repeated myself there. That's kind of redundant. So I'm just going to say 3.5. I think it's a solid film. It is one that I like, but I do love other Fulci films better, but it's still pretty solid, and I would say above average. So a 3.5 from me, Verno, and Brooks, and a 2.5 from Jelani for a PCP average of 3.167. 67.
Can't get them all.
3.067. All right, because we're glad there's not a 69 in this movie, okay? You know what I'm saying? Because, it's not something we're ready for. All right, so that concludes our review of Don't Torture a Duckling. And Perry, I'm curious, what would you have rated the film? He said 3.5 to a 4, solid movie. Loved how there are so many elements of evil throughout the film. Well, thank you for watching it today, Perry. Sorry you fell asleep and couldn't make it, but I'm glad that you were able to pop into the chat at the very end here. This has been a great conversation, actually. I was really nervous when it was just me and Verno to start, but now this actually wound up to be a great show. So we are now officially in the last week of March Madness for 2023, and we're going to kick off the finale Saturday night on Dylan's Horror Show when we talk about American Psycho. I have not seen this movie, Delaney, since we worked at Hollywood 18, man.
Are you serious?
I have not seen this movie since the movie theater, man. You've never seen it, Brooks?
No.
I've watched this movie like on VHS. I've watched this movie at the theater. Oh, yeah. This is an awesome film.
Don't just stare at it. Eat it. Anyway.
Eat it. Yeah. I got to give you some business cards.
Now, next week, we got a great finale because American Psycho is a great finale for DHS. But here at PCP, we like to go a little bit over hard. And next week, we're talking about Itchy the Killer. That's right. Oh. We've been focusing so much on Italian horror and Italian influenced horror that now we're going straight into Japan, Takashi Miike, and we're doing Itchy the Killer, one of the fucking most gnarliest movies I have ever seen. Right, I cannot wait to discuss this movie next week, especially since Joe Corallo is going to be here with us. Itchy the Killer. So Saturday night, American Psycho. And then next Monday, Itchy the Killer. And then on Sunday, before we do the finale, on Rockin' Robbie Live, I will be revealing the April lineup to everybody. So don't miss Rockin' Robbie Live on, is this another subtitle movie? Itchy the Killer?
Probably.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and Itchy the Killer, you want to watch with the subtitles. You don't want to watch a dub of it. I don't even know if there's an English dub of it. That would be bullshit, to be honest with you. I don't know.
Be on ours.
See, Italian movies, we're way more like forgiving of with the dub because they don't even film audio or they don't record audio for those movies, you know, because they know they're going to be dubbed and put about like all over the place, kind of like Hong Kong cinema. But like Japan, like, you know, you need to watch it with the original Japanese. Ichi the Killer is Takashi Miike doing his version of a Joker movie. And it's way more gnarly than the Joaquin Phoenix one, bruh. Like Brian watched it because Brian's going to be on the show next week. Brian messaged me and said, yeah, I watched Banshees of Inisherin and Ichi the Killer in the same day. And bruh.
I don't know how you do that.
He said he was eating too, all the way through Ichi the Killer, which proves that he has a strong stomach. Anyway, Ichi the Killer next week. American Psycho on Saturday. Verno, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you tell us what's coming up on your show?
Over Blood Splatter Chatter on Instagram, posting horror stuff. I'll be on Dylan's Horror Show talking about American Psycho this Saturday. Super stoked for that. And then a couple weeks from now, April 6th, Rockin' Robbie going to come on Blood Splatter Chatter here on YouTube. We're going to be talking about our top 5 horror directors of all time. So this is I'm like, I'm going to do these top 5 things. Be something nice. You don't have to watch any extra movies. Just make a list. And so far, I've watched like 7 movies in preparation for that show. So that's it's not going as planned, but it's been a bunch of fucking banger movies. So stoked about it.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Pretty much got my list figured out. And every time I got it figured out, I think of another person. But I still think I'm going to stand with my list as it is. And I'm pretty sure nobody's going to be surprised by my list at all. If you know me and you've been paying attention, you know who my top 5 horror directors are, right? All right, Brooks, thank you for joining us, man. Want you any final thoughts?
You may have heard, I do a channel with this guy over here. It's called Go Figure Reviews, and I can't remember what we're doing this week.
We did Mumra. The regular old Mumra this week, and we also did I like that one. It's up now, and we also did the Shazam Fury of the Gods DC Multiverse figures. So or figure, we also opened the gold label Shazam figure from the Walmart exclusive and compared the two. Please check us out. Brooks, you got anything else to say about it? Go ahead.
So I can't remember what you were planning on coming up. Like this.
Oh, okay. Well, coming up, like if Robbie wants to do it, we're gonna do other stuff, but we're gonna do a Valaverse Pandora, the female kind of G.I. Joe-ish figure. We're also gonna do we got a couple of things coming up. We're gonna have a live stream mid-April. So if anybody wants to join, let us know pretty soon. And that's pretty much it for Go Figure Reviews. I mean, check us out. I
would show you guys my toys, but I broke them.
I broke them. I'm assuming that's your final thoughts then, Jelani, was the plug for Go Figure Reviews. Everybody check that out. Go Figure Reviews. I just recently did some videos with them about Sunman and Too Bad and the whole bunch of Motu fucking
you're a Motu
today, man. So like I'll tell you what, bro, when you're ready to do a Snake Man episode, you let me know. Because I'm there for you, man. King Hiss is my favorite Motu.
I got a King Hiss. King Hiss. We can do it.
Vintage, baby. Complete. Clean as fuck, man.
Origins. Clean as fuck.
Fuck that shit, bro. That's some stupid shit. Anyway.
You gotta get your bands. Did you get your bands fixed? Because you know they'll break.
I don't need to get my bands fixed on my my King Hiss yet. But you know, when they need to be fixed, they'll be fixed. Okay. All right. Join us on Saturday for American Psycho on Dylan's Horror Show. And then the conclusion of March Madness when we switch over to Japan and talk about Takashi Miike's Ichi the Killer. Y'all have never seen a movie like this one. Never. It is fucking gnarly. I love it. I don't want to overhype it. But we started with Tenebrae and we're ending with Ichi the Killer, bro. Come on. You know what I'm saying? It's good. So anyway, on behalf of everybody here at PCP, we really do appreciate you joining us. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We're dipping out. And remember, Lucio Fulci has an obsession with eyes and Donald Duck. So just keep that in mind.